St. Louis Blues captain Brayden Schenn is currently facing severe backlash from hockey fans and media alike, following an on-ice altercation with Chicago Blackhawks phenom Connor Bedard. This incident, occurring in the final seconds of a recent game, resulted in a potential shoulder injury for Bedard, casting a shadow over the young star's promising season. The sequence unfolded at the face-off dot, where Schenn was ostensibly attempting to prevent Bedard from generating a shot and potentially scoring, while Bedard was actively working to create an offensive opportunity. The incident's genesis traces back to the concluding moments of the game, with less than a second remaining on the clock and the Blues clinging to a precarious one-goal lead. As the puck was dropped for a critical face-off, Schenn and Bedard became entangled. What initially appeared as a routine battle for possession quickly escalated into a more serious encounter. Their sticks and arms became inextricably linked, creating a chaotic scramble that ultimately led to Bedard's apparent shoulder injury. The mechanism of injury suggested a hyperextension, or an awkward twist, a common hazard in the high-intensity environment of a hockey game. Bedard's immediate reaction was telling. He skated off the ice visibly distressed, clutching his shoulder as he made his way to the locker room for evaluation. The Blackhawks' immediate response was one of concern, tempered with a degree of uncertainty. Coach Jeff Blashill, addressing the media after the game, characterized the event as a freak accident, downplaying any notion of malicious intent from Schenn. He confirmed that Bedard would indeed miss the team's subsequent game and promised further updates as more information became available regarding the extent of the injury and a potential recovery timeline. The loss of Bedard, even for a single game, represents a significant blow to the Blackhawks. As their key offensive catalyst, Bedard has been instrumental in improving the team's competitiveness this season, consistently ranking high in both goals and points, and frequently being the sole bright spot in an otherwise challenging year for the franchise. Beyond the immediate impact on the Blackhawks, Bedard's injury carries broader implications, particularly concerning his potential participation in international competitions. The timing of the injury could jeopardize Bedard's chances of making Team Canada's Olympic squad, an aspiration that many believe is well within his reach, given his exceptional talent and rapid ascent in the league. The prospect of missing such a prestigious opportunity due to an injury sustained in a regular season game has only intensified the fan reaction. Social media platforms have been inundated with expressions of widespread outrage, with many fans calling for Schenn's arrest, labeling the incident a scumbag move, and advocating for retaliatory actions in future games between the two teams. This fervent reaction underscores the passionate nature of hockey fandom and the protective stance supporters often take towards their star players. Despite the emotional outcry from fans, an objective analysis of the situation suggests that Schenn's actions were likely driven by a desire to prevent a potential scoring chance rather than an intentional effort to injure Bedard. In the heat of the moment, with a game on the line, players often engage in aggressive physical play to gain an advantage. However, the fine line between competitive aggression and dangerous play is often blurred, particularly when a star player sustains an injury. The immediate impact of Bedard's absence on the Blackhawks is undeniable. The team faces the challenge of navigating upcoming games without their primary offensive engine, which could significantly affect their performance and their standing in the league. For Bedard himself, the long-term impact remains uncertain. The recovery time for shoulder injuries can vary widely, and any prolonged absence could affect his career trajectory, particularly his Olympic aspirations. This incident is also likely to have significant repercussions for Schenn. Regardless of his intent, the fan base and potentially even the Blackhawks players are expected to harbor resentment, leading to anticipated retaliation in the next Blues-Blackhawks game scheduled for January 7th. Furthermore, this incident could prompt increased scrutiny from the league on physical play and player safety, particularly in situations involving high-profile athletes. Ultimately, this unfortunate entanglement has intensified the already fierce rivalry between the Blues and the Blackhawks, adding another layer of animosity to their future matchups. The incident unfolded in the final seconds of a closely contested game, with less than a second remaining on the clock and the St. Louis Blues clinging to a precarious one-goal lead. As the puck dropped for a face-off deep in the Blues' defensive zone, Schenn and Bedard became entangled in a struggle for possession. This critical moment, intended to be a routine play, quickly escalated into a sequence that would define the immediate aftermath of the game and spark widespread controversy. The mechanism of Bedard's injury appeared to involve a complex interaction of sticks and arms as both players vied for the puck. During the face-off, Bedard attempted to gain control and potentially generate a last-second shot, while Schenn aggressively moved to prevent any offensive opportunity. In the ensuing scramble, their limbs and equipment reportedly became intertwined, leading to an awkward fall or twist that resulted in Bedard's apparent shoulder injury. Eyewitness accounts and initial replays suggested a forceful, almost unnatural motion that placed significant stress on Bedard's left shoulder. Bedard's immediate reaction to the entanglement was a clear indicator of the severity of the situation. He skated off the ice visibly distressed, clutching his shoulder in discomfort. This immediate physical response, coupled with his swift departure to the locker room, signaled to fans and commentators alike that the injury was more than a minor bump. The Blackhawks' immediate response to the incident was delivered by coach Jeff Blashill, who, while acknowledging the unfortunate nature of the event, described it as a freak accident. He confirmed that Bedard would be sidelined for at least the next game and promised further updates as more diagnostic information became available. This cautious but direct statement did little to quell the rising tension among the fan base, who viewed the injury as a direct consequence of Schenn's actions, regardless of intent. Bedard's importance to the Blackhawks cannot be overstated. As a generational talent, he has been the primary engine driving the team's offense, consistently leading in goals and points. His presence on the ice significantly elevates the team's competitiveness, transforming an otherwise struggling franchise into one that occasionally showcases flashes of brilliance. The prospect of his absence, even for a short period, casts a long shadow over the Blackhawks' immediate future and their aspirations for the season. Furthermore, Bedard's injury carries significant implications beyond his club team. The timing of the injury could jeopardize his chances of making Team Canada's Olympic squad, a coveted opportunity for any elite player. His exceptional performance in the NHL had positioned him as a strong candidate for the national team, and a long recovery period could derail these aspirations. The fan reaction to the incident has been intense and widespread. Social media platforms have been inundated with outrage, with many fans calling for Schenn's arrest and labeling his actions as a scumbag move. The sentiment of advocating for retaliation in future games against the Blues has also gained considerable traction, highlighting the passionate and often visceral nature of hockey fandom. This emotional response, however, often overlooks the complex dynamics of on-ice play. While fans perceived malicious intent, an objective view suggests that Schenn was likely attempting to prevent a goal, a common defensive maneuver in the closing seconds of a tight game, rather than intentionally injure Bedard. The aggressive nature of hockey, particularly in high-stakes situations, can sometimes lead to unforeseen and unfortunate outcomes, regardless of the player's primary intentions. This distinction between intent and outcome is often lost in the heat of fan reactions, leading to calls for actions that may not align with the objective realities of the game. The immediate impact on the Blackhawks following Bedard's injury was palpable. The loss of such a pivotal player, who consistently generated offensive opportunities and elevated the play of his linemates, created a significant void in their lineup. This disruption inevitably affected the team's performance, forcing coaches to reconfigure lines and rely more heavily on less experienced or less productive players. The team's competitive edge, which had been sharpened by Bedard's presence, dulled considerably, leading to concerns about maintaining their momentum and achieving their season objectives. The ripple effect extended beyond mere statistics. The team's morale and overall confidence also took a hit, as they faced the daunting task of competing without their star forward. Regarding the long-term impact on Bedard, the uncertainty surrounding his recovery time became a paramount concern. Shoulder injuries, especially in hockey, can be complex and often require extended periods of rehabilitation. The duration of his absence directly influenced his career trajectory, particularly in his crucial rookie season. A prolonged recovery could impede his development, disrupt his rhythm, and potentially affect his confidence upon returning to play. Moreover, the injury cast a substantial shadow over his Olympic aspirations. As a strong candidate for Team Canada, his participation hinged on a swift and complete recovery. Any lingering issues or a delayed return to peak form could jeopardize his inclusion in the prestigious international tournament, a dream for many professional athletes. The physical recovery was only one aspect. The psychological toll of a significant injury, especially for a young player, also presented a challenge. For Brayden Schenn, the repercussions of the incident were anticipated to extend beyond the immediate game. Regardless of his actual intent, the fan outrage and the perceived injustice of Bedard's injury meant that he was expected to face retaliation in the next Blues-Blackhawks game, scheduled for January 7th. Hockey culture often dictates a response to such incidents, particularly when a star player is involved. This retaliation could manifest in various forms, from increased physical play targeted at Schenn to specific challenges from Blackhawks players seeking to even the score. The heightened tension surrounding this particular matchup would undoubtedly add an extra layer of intensity and physicality, making it a game under significant scrutiny. Schenn would likely be prepared for this reception, understanding the unwritten rules of the sport. The incident also carried broader league implications, potentially leading to increased scrutiny on physical play and player safety in similar situations. The NHL consistently reviews on-ice incidents, and high-profile injuries often prompt discussions about rule enforcement, player protection, and the line between aggressive play and dangerous actions. While the league's initial stance might align with Blashill's freak accident assessment, the widespread public reaction could compel a re-evaluation of how such entanglements are treated in future games. This could lead to stricter interpretations of contact near the net or during face-offs, aiming to mitigate the risk of similar injuries. The focus on player safety remains a constant priority for the league, and incidents like this serve as catalysts for ongoing dialogue and potential policy adjustments. Finally, the future of the rivalry between the St. Louis Blues and the Chicago Blackhawks was undoubtedly intensified by this incident. Historically, their matchups have been characterized by fierce competition and passionate fan bases. Bedard's injury, however, injected a new layer of animosity and emotional charge into the rivalry. The perception of an intentional act, even if objectively disputable, would fuel the competitive fire between the two teams. Future games would likely be marked by increased physicality, confrontational moments, and a heightened sense of drama. This incident would become a defining moment in their recent history, referenced by fans and players alike, ensuring that future encounters would be more than just another hockey game, but rather a continuation of a narrative deeply impacted by the events of that fateful face-off.